Well, hello and welcome to CB Talk on video. So, Tyler, great to have you here. We are going to go ahead and do this a little differently. Normally, we kind of do the interview portion first, and we go back and re-record some stuff afterwards. And I think we just run through this whole thing and
The whole episode?
The whole episode
Yeah.
will give our audience an opportunity to see CB Talk live in action. So, from the top, hello and welcome to CB Talk, the Combined Transport Blackwell Monthly Podcast. Today is January 23rd, 2025, and I'm your host, Nick Card, Vice President of Operations. I've already given you a hint of our interview coming up, so we'll be talking to Tyler later on in the program. But first, before we go through that, we've got the news. First big news item is that we are changing from a Driver of the Month program to a Driver of the Quarter program. The idea is we want to make sure that we can recognize those drivers who really go above and beyond, and by reducing the number of drivers that we recognize in a year, it also means that we can do more for those drivers that we recognize each quarter. It provides a little bit higher status, a little bit more engagement, and so we're interested, drivers, for your feedback on that program as we get through it, but we'll be having the first Driver of the Quarter here, first quarter 2026. We've also got our safety topic of the month. January, we are focused on winter driving. So make sure you are practicing safe driving practices for winter conditions. Make sure you're familiar with how to drive on icy roads, handling poor visibility, managing safe speeds, and of course the importance of maintaining traction. So using your chains or ensuring that there's sufficient life on your tires. In the news this month, truck capacity is tightening going into 2026. This is a really good sign, and it's been something that we've really been waiting for probably about 2 years now. We're finally seeing the supply side fix to the demand shrink after COVID. So we're seeing more and more trucking companies that are exiting or shrinking. We're seeing new equipment purchases are being delayed, and banks are really tight with lending money. And so the market, it's still not like the hot market that we want it to be, but this is exactly the kind of market that we'll be able to climb right on out. And so one of the big things is the power sort of in the negotiations shifting back to carriers. So as we see that capacity tighten, that means as carriers, we are going to gain leverage to raise rates and prioritize shippers. And so this is really going to help us make sure that we're working with those shippers and benefiting those who've really helped us, as well as those customers who, really didn't take care of us during COVID. They're going to experience some of that crunch, and hopefully those that we have a real relationship with, those will be able to continue long into the future. And so that means on the shipper side, if you're not prepared, you don't have those good relationships with carriers, you're going to be in trouble. So good times for trucking for sure. Like I said, relationships are the key thing there. So, for those shippers, if you're listening, the relationship matters. Loyalty and partnership makes a difference. All righty. And with that, it's time for our interview. Tyler Myers is who's sitting with me here today in the studio. Tyler has been with us since August of 2022. He is the marketing manager, but more than that, he is the producer for this podcast. So really, this podcast was one of Tyler's brainchildren, and he's really helped us make this into something that's really impressive. We've been doing this, 2 years now?
Yeah, it's a little over 2 years.
2 years. Of course, I learned a fun fact about Tyler today, that he used to be a professional actor. So I think being here on camera is kind of a fitting debut for the video version of CB Talk.
I was super uncomfortable when I was a professional actor, so I don't think it helped me at all be camera ready. But that was back when I was, 14, 15 years old?
So what does that mean? So there's two things I've got about that. One is, what does it mean to be a professional actor? And two, what does used to mean? Like, you ever stop being a professional actor once you've been a professional actor?
Yeah, I think that was more of a choice. So when I was 14, my mom would send headshots of myself to every production on the West Coast. So I'd have to drive to Portland all the time for auditions, and then to Los Angeles. But I became a professional actor when I started like acting at OSF, Oregon Shakespeare Festival here in Ashland. And I did 84 shows up there and got paid for it all, 15 years old. And then that production moved down to Berkeley, and I did 50 shows down there. So I was able to make enough to buy my first car when I was 16. So I think that's probably what professional acting means. You're getting your paid.
Bought yourself a car.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, so you were this actor and you've pivoted yourself into a marketing position. Now you're a marketing manager. Before we jump into sort of CB Talk and what we've done there, can you give us a little bit of kind of an overview? What does that mean? What is your focus? What are the things that you work on?
Yeah. So I originally came to Combined, I think a little over 3 years ago now, for the sole purpose of recruitment marketing, to get drivers to come here, to want to work for us, be able to see our advertisements. That has sort of evolved into, I would say, like truck sale advertisement as well. And now I do also a little bit of B2B stuff. So a little bit of like attracting customers who want to use us for their shipping. It's probably like 50% recruitment, 40% truck sales, maybe like 10% B2B.
Okay. And so, so within those sort of different bounds, what does that mean? I mean, because like marketing, I think is this sort of generic term, and I think a lot of people think about marketing as like, oh, the Super Bowl commercials, right? But like, I know marketing is so much more than that. And so what does it really mean to do recruitment marketing or truck sales marketing?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about first laying down the brand image for Combined Transport, sort of like defining that, making it to where, how are we different than any other trucking company out there? Because there's a lot of trucking companies out there. And then just also trying to like carve a piece from mega carriers, because mega carriers, they have like an endless marketing budget, and they have entire teams. So how can we make our brand stand out against a company that has millions of dollars to spend on marketing, that has like 20 people in the marketing department versus just me in the marketing department? So in a broader sense, marketing is more about, well, I guess the basis of it is having the brand image and then building everything on top of that.
Okay. And so then from there, that's the actual like put a commercial on or put an ad on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. As long as everything that I do in advertisement is meeting our message, our brand message, then that's where we start building on it. So if I'm doing a recruitment ad, if I'm putting that on Indeed, I want the wording to be what our brand is. If I'm doing a commercial, which we did one, I think 2 years ago, we had a man named Nick Alexander came out, and but even the process of writing that commercial, we wanted it to be specific to Combined Transport. We didn't want it to be too general, too vague, or even the commercials we've done in the past, even before I was here. Those were strong brand messaging, like family, sort of having the roots of a small operation, and putting that into our message.
Yeah. So obviously it's been very difficult finding drivers lately. And it's not just bringing drivers in, but good drivers. That's always been the challenge, is how do we bring in good drivers? And as you're looking at marketing, sort of what are your strategies and approaches as we're trying to go out and recruit drivers in with that sort of marketing message?
Yeah, well, finding good qualified drivers can be extremely difficult, and it seems it's more difficult now than it has been in at least the entire time I've been here. Even going to these trucking conferences, I go to some recruitment conferences throughout the year, and that's what everyone's talking about. It's like I'm getting a lot of apps in, but it doesn't mean that they're qualified. Maybe I'll have like 10% of the entire apps I get in to be qualified drivers. So it's definitely a problem nationwide. And sort of how you kind of address it is you aren't necessarily looking for active job seeker drivers. Sure, a lot of our budget goes towards Indeed, and those are a lot of truck drivers that are actively looking for a job. Maybe their company just went out of business. Maybe like something happened that they're not working for their truck company anymore, but they might want to work for Combined. So we're trying to get those drivers. But I think for qualified drivers, a lot of them are at their job and they're not actively looking for a trucking job. And so you just have to go through like areas online to find those people and just sort of convince them to like come over and work for us. A lot of that's done through social media. Every truck driver I think I've ever met is on TikTok, is on Instagram, on Facebook. And so it's just reaching those people who maybe aren't necessarily looking for a job, but have a job and you might want to convince them.
Okay. And so what you're saying there is basically you just got to get in front of as many people as possible on the hopes that you can find the guy that's...
In the right ways, because there's a couple of different ways to get in front of people. You could go to job boards. You can advertise through there, but that's not necessarily the greatest thing, because then you're just, those companies are more so sending leads to you and they don't really care if they're qualified or not. They're like, okay, you paid for this many drivers to go over to you. We're sending that many drivers. Too bad they all have local driving experience when we need OTR experience.
Sure.
So it's more so finding the right areas, because we are limited by a budget, and that budget sort of dictates where we want to advertise to. Because if we spend too much money going into one area and it's not, well, doesn't work out for us, then that's just a waste entirely.
Yeah, no, so that's really interesting. I mean, so as you're looking at this, it's not just like, oh, come up with a good message, but it's how do you target, who do you get in front of, how do you make sure that we're bringing in as best as possible interest from sort of the drivers we want to hire, and sort of finding that audience, if you will.
Yeah, and a lot of it's also just a statistics game too, because I will have my huge spreadsheets that I have that will talk about where I advertise in a certain month, how much money I put into that in a certain month, and then sort of breaking it down by how many hires came from there. Well, this month we didn't get very many hires, so I'm going to adjust the budget to go into more places that were better for us that might not have had a good budget last month. And so it's just constantly checking on my ad campaigns, checking on performance to make sure that everything's running well, and then adjusting, constantly adjusting.
Gotcha. So one of the other pieces of marketing that you talked about that you do a lot of is truck sales. And so could you talk a little bit about how that's different and sort of what are the things that are sort of unique to getting equipment out the door?
Yeah. Truck sales for marketing, it uses a lot of the same tools, but completely different audience. Like the people that we are recruiting, it doesn't even look similar to the people we're selling trucks to. Because we're hiring company drivers for the most part. And company drivers are very different from people that actually want to go out and buy a truck and go out on the road with our trucks. And so it's about finding where those audiences are. So a lot for our truck sales, of course, it's Google campaigns to get our website up in front. It's a lot of social media stuff. And then using companies that specify in truck sales. So there's a company called Truck Paper that we advertise through, a company called Commercial Truck Trader. They sound very similar. Truck Paper, Truck Trader. Places that basically you list your inventory online. They already have the presence on Google, so they already have a lot of audience members going into it, and then just using those as well. But yeah, like I said, very different audience, and so the wording is going to be different. The message is going to be a little different as well. But I work with Chuck for a lot of that, and I think Chuck does very well.
Yeah. And so with getting equipment out the door, so it's I'm just thinking about sort of the steps you outlined with the drivers. It's you've got to sell the story of Combined. Well, so for trucks and equipment, that's a different story than what you're trying to sell for drivers. Then you've got to find the audience, and that's a different audience.
Yeah.
And so sort of as you layer it up, it's a whole different world, if I'm understanding that.
Well, I will say it's a little similar as far as messaging goes, because it still is under the umbrella of Combined Transport. And one of the areas I think we excel in, both in the recruitment department and for truck sales, is our honesty. As far as recruiters go, and for Chuck, we can almost be honest to a fault for a lot of the times, but I don't view that as a bad thing. I would like a trucker that comes in to work for us. I'd rather them know exactly what they're getting into than drive here for a couple months and then not be satisfied and then leave. So that's a huge thing with recruitment, being honest about how much they're going to be making, being honest about how much they're going to be on the road, and we are upfront with that. And I say that's almost the exact same with truck sales. We're honest with the customers. We don't want to sell them a lemon, anything that's going to break down when they start driving on the side of the road. We make sure our trucks are fleet maintained. All of them are in good working condition. but yeah, and so like I overhear a lot of what like Chuck talks to like the people that are buying trucks with, and yeah, he's brutally honest as well. If a truck, like one of our trucks right now had an oil leak, well, and then we fixed it, of course, but we still put that information in the advertisement. We put that right there on the image of the truck, that loss of oil. I think that's what it's called. Because yeah, we don't want to be deceptive. And that's what you see with a lot of marketing just in general, is deception to get you to buy product, which is not necessarily what I'm about.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things that's I know is a challenge, because it's not just like us being honest versus other people who aren't. It's that there becomes that sort of expectation of dishonesty in the market, like you said, because so many people are dishonest, and then that makes our honesty, they're going, oh my gosh, what are they hiding if they're going to be willing to tell me that?
Yeah. Like, I mean, and there's differences too about withholding truth and then like just being completely deceptive, which I don't really want to do either.
Yeah.
But there is a point towards like there's only so much stuff I can put into an advertisement. Like I can't just on the image of the truck list out every single thing about that truck. I can't put the odometer. I can't put like the hours it's been running. But that's the job of recruitment, and that's the job of truck sales. I'm here to get people to call them, and then they're the ones that are selling the job or they're selling the truck. Yeah. And so, yeah, and I mean, it's a huge moral dilemma in marketing in general, is like how much honesty people put into advertisements, in which, like you said, it has been like marketing and deception goes hand in hand with each other. I do think that's changing a little bit. I think I see a lot of companies in a different way. I mean, so you have AI that's becoming prevalent, especially in marketing. Like, I think marketing was the first area to take up AI.
Well, there's the infamous Coca-Cola commercials that are just like, the thing that I remember about those is looking at the trucks and like how like impossible or illegal the truck configurations are.
Oh yeah,
because it's some brainchild of.
And that's the first thing I look at too. AI. Being with a trucking company, you immediately look at there. So there are large companies that are like taking the form of like AI for advertisement, and I wouldn't say it's deceptive, or I wouldn't say it's being, I wouldn't say it's lying to consumers. But at the same time, you see those companies that are maybe going more into the field of lying, but I think you see other companies that are switching their marketing to just honesty. Family is a big one, and just like real stories too. I went to a marketing conference like years ago, and the guy like teaching this conference, he wrote a book on marketing, and he like talked about different like revolutions in marketing. I forget what all the revolutions were, but the trend that he was seeing, which this took place a couple years ago, was a lot of companies that were just putting real life stories into their advertisements. Because with like the rise of AI, with like you can go on like Facebook right now and see an AI post, but it could look real. With all of that becoming so major in our society right now, consumers or people appreciate when they see a real story, when they see something real, even if it's not the prettiest, you know?
Yeah. One of the best analogies that I've ever heard about AI is that AI has very spiky intelligence. So when we think about like general intelligence, right, it's sort of round and soft. Like you can do a lot of different things within there, and you're pretty good at all of those. It's basically equal. But with AI, there's certain things that AI is exceptionally good at, and there's certain things that AI is exceptionally bad at. And so if you were to try to like draw a map of AI's intelligence, it would be all this like all these spiky things. And I think that's where, from a trucking perspective, you know, I'm a huge AI advocate. I think it's an incredible tool. It has to be used as a tool. When people try to outsource all their thinking to it creates problems. But understanding the limitations of that tool is really important. And so at the same time, because I understand the limitations of our current AI models and what it does, I don't think I will see truly self-driving trucks in my lifetime, because it requires such specific domain knowledge as well as broad generalist knowledge, and a really important backstop. Because like an AI that makes the correct turn like 90% of the time kills a lot of people. Yeah. And so whereas when you're marketing, and if it creates the right title 90% of the time, you are there to just get rid of the 10% that are bad.
Exactly. in which I've seen AI as far advertising on Facebook. And one thing that Facebook will do that they're like implementing into their program or Meta is they will take your ad and give you around 30 different AI versions of it. All look terrible, horrendous. It will take like a picture of our truck that I posted, and then it will like turn that into a bus or something like that. So yeah, very limited right now. There are areas in marketing that AI is very useful for that saves me a bunch of time coming up with different like headlines, stuff like that. But yeah, as far as, I mean, like you said, I don't think we're going to see self-driving cars anytime, or self-driving trucks. I mean, we're seeing self-driving cars now, but
So even self-driving cars are only self-driving within narrow windows, and they can't self-drive in so many of the situations that our drivers find themselves in every day.
That's true.
You know, when you have the luxury of driving a car which has its stopping power is incredibly much stronger than a truck is, relatively speaking, when you look at its ability to accelerate or steer. I mean, there's so many, even just the dynamic handling of a car that provides a better backstop. I just don't see how we're going to be able to trust trucks, especially when you start getting into specialized applications like what we do.
yeah, that's true. Heavy haul stuff, especially.
I mean, and that's where it's like, I hope that we're able to bring that technology to our drivers someday that will help make their experience being out over the road easier. You know, I'd love to see
like
a
logs
highway
and stuff.
system. Yeah. To be able to just automatically, like the AI is in the cab with you and it's just recording your logs automatically, so you don't have to touch it. It's knowing what you're doing so it can document your pre-trip, or you can talk to it and then it'll document what you tell it. Like, there are lots of ways this technology could make our drivers' lives better, but that's very different from
But it's not going to replace them. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I like that. I think that's a good look on AI. Because, I mean, you can go back and even look when computers started becoming prevalent in the workspace.
Yeah.
Like, there was the scare that computers are going to take over people's jobs, which I wouldn't say it did. It just more so changed the entire landscape. Especially like Excel. Like, that's probably the most like major thing that computers brought. Before Excel everything was handwritten, everything was kept in files. And so what computers did was more so just make it all easier, which is what I see AI going as. It's just a little different view, I guess, in marketing. Seeing like entire images brought up by just AI.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I heard, and I think this is really true, it's like with computers didn't take people's jobs. People who knew how to use computers took the jobs of people who didn't know how to use computers. And I think AI is going to be that, is a very similar kind of tool. It's going to be a hugely transformative tool. People who know how to use that tool correctly are going to have advantages. People who don't know how to use that tool are going to struggle. And so, you know, my encouragement is for everybody to use it and learn it and start to see its weaknesses, see how to talk to it, because it is hardly like once you start using it regularly, it's hardly like this magical thing that everybody seems to think it is, because it's definitely got its limits. Oh my gosh.
That's interesting. One thing with truck drivers, do you think it is going to help with like the loneliness epidemic we see with truck drivers? Because even right now you could talk to like ChatGPT's model for instance. You can have pretty like good or like deep conversations with it. Do you think that's enough like socialization? Or do you think that like truck drivers, especially truck drivers, I say truck drivers too, well, not only because we're in a trucking industry, but they're out on the road a lot by themselves. Of course, they have their families to talk to, and they also talk to other truck drivers at the truck stop. What do you think about it just like replacing like human connection in that way, in the socialization form?
It's a really interesting question, because we're seeing that already around the country, around the world, of people using AI to fill some of those needs. Now, there are definitely some horror stories that surround this, where AI kind of goes off the handle and becomes like a sycophantic, and turns people. I mean, there are people out there who like think that they're, the next coming of Christ because
it feeds
AI
into the
has
delusion.
it's fed into their
AI is kind of made to be like, oh yeah, you're right. you should pursue that. So-
And so at the same time, we're also seeing a lot of people who are turning to AI to have conversations about stuff that is very difficult to have without like a therapist or something like that. Questions about, hey, I'm struggling with this thing with my wife or in this relationship, and what are some ways to help and approach it. And so I'm seeing, I think that it runs the gamut. Sometimes you just have an idea or you have something you want to say and you need to like bounce it off of somebody else.
Yeah.
In that way, AI can be a super useful conversation partner. But AI is not a replacement for a real relationship.
Like actual connection, yeah.
And that's where I think that's my big fear is how some people are using it and they are trying to replace relationships with it because it's just telling them everything they want to hear. And something that this, being on my soapbox here for just a second, is that I am a big believer that, we are all imperfect. We all have opportunities to grow, and the way we do that is through hardship. It's the way, confronting our weaknesses and overcoming them, not just losing ourselves in our strengths. And so one of the things that, real relationships, in my opinion, do is real relationships push us to be better through confronting our weaknesses, our inabilities, or whatever those happen to be, and helping us grow above those, whereas AI is not going to do that for us. AI is going to take the things that we're good at, that we want to talk about, that we want to focus on, and basically create a mini sort of echo chamber around how wonderful we are, and that's going to cause people to stagnate. That's not the function of real relationship. Again, that's maybe the buddy you go drink with at the bar does that for you. Great. So AI can replace your drinking buddy, and maybe that's going to make for a better world because you're not going to have to get drunk to hang out with the guy. But that isn't a real relationship.
Yeah, I think that also says something about being around people that will also address your flaws too, because AI won't do that, of course.
Yeah. It takes a lot to get AI to address your flaws. In fact, one of the things that I've spent more time than probably anything else with AI is to get it to tell me bluntly when my ideas are bad, or my thoughts are bad, or my approach is bad.
Because it really wants to sugarcoat it for you. Yeah. I've seen people come up with different prompts they have to use in order to get like such just direct answers too. But of course, it's all going to change. It'll probably look completely different in 10 years from now.
There's certain technology that I like to say, I call it like teenager level technology. When you're a teenager, it feels like you're an adult. You can feed yourself, you can probably get a job, you can tie your own shoes, like you're a functioning adult, right? No, you're not. We know teenagers still have a lot of growing to do. Just because they look like an adult and talk like an adult and can act like an adult does not make them an adult. The superficial analysis, oh my gosh, does not make it mature. And so you look at self-driving vehicles. I think we're in teenager phase of self-driving vehicles. I think AI is rapidly approaching its teenager phase. And then people are going to be like, AI's been solved. And it's not. Just because it can superficially do that does not make it actually a fully mature, usable technology. And so that's where, just because something is a teenager does not make it useless. But again, like any tool, you have to understand its limitations and you have to be able to deploy it correctly. And that's where I think all of this super cool technology that we're seeing defining the 21st century, a lot of it is still very immature. It's incredibly transformative, but it's still immature.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just got back from San Francisco this weekend, so seeing Waymos everywhere, that was also a trip for me because I'd never seen them before. But even those, you see them driving, and you see them making a lot of mistakes, stopping in the middle of the road. Ultimately, I think to sum up the AI talks, I don't think truck drivers have to worry too much about being replaced by AI.
Yeah, self-driving trucks are not. Again, I would be amazed if I see them in my lifetime.
Yeah,
truly self-driving trucks. So hey, I want to change gears here for a second. I love AI. We can talk about AI for forever, but I want to go back to what we started talking about at the beginning. CB Talk, this podcast. This has been something that we've been doing for about 2 years now, just over 2 years. And this has been, I think, a really fun and interesting way to sort of connect with drivers out over the road. We've been getting pretty good, consistent engagement with our podcast. So let's go back to the beginning of CB Talk. What sort of inspired this originally? Where did this idea come from? And how did we end up here?
So, some people might remember the Friday roundtables, which also used to be the Saturday roundtables.
And they were the Wednesday roundtables before that.
Yes. I came on board when it was the Friday roundtables at 4 p.m. So after the workday, you would go over to the training yard, or the yard over the training building. And it was a live, weekly show.
Yeah.
So we'd have other managers across Combined Transport come over, and then they'd have to speak. Some managers really good about it. Some managers would come over, speak for maybe 5 minutes, and then it'd be done. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of setup that went into those shows. I would have to prep maybe 2 hours before each one of those shows to get the camera set up, to make sure live footage is going out to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And then all that set up for just nothing. A lot of times. I know Friday, and then throughout the years, Friday roundtables sort of dropped in attendance a lot too.
COVID had a big thing to play with that, because we used to get a lot of driver participation. We'd have on average 20, 25 drivers or so. But then when COVID happened, there were concerns about, distancing and all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of killed some of the roundtable vibes as well.
I remember the people that would talk there, it was almost it's my week to go to the yard and do my talkings, which it's fine. I think that was reflected in all of us, because even myself setting it up, I'm another week where I have to go set up this Friday roundtable. And so, and just viewership dropped as well. I think it being on a weekly basis made it to where people, and being live, it felt like you had to have been there. And for watching it, it's never that great to go back and watch a live recording. Especially since a lot of the live stuff, it was long pauses where truck drivers are asking questions, but you couldn't really hear them on the live thing because we have microphones set anywhere. And so I kind of thought of different ways that we could get information out to our truck drivers without it having to be you had to have been there. And so I like the idea of a podcast. First, I was thinking of a newsletter, doing that a monthly basis. But I thought transforming the Friday roundtables into basically a monthly newsletter, which is sort of how I view these podcasts, is us being able to talk to different people within our company and being able to give our drivers updates, and just opening the door too to how we operate. Because a lot of truck drivers be on the road and not necessarily know what we're even doing over here.
Well, I'll say that for me with CB Talk, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most is to have a deeper conversation with different people in the company.
Yeah.
And getting to know more of what they do, and how that impacts the drivers, and the history behind it and stuff. And so, we've had a lot of really cool guests. And these are people that I've known for a long time in a work capacity, and it's they do that thing. It's even with you, Tyler. It's you do that marketing
He's
thing.
just there in the corner all day. Yeah. And because a lot of our truck drivers, they've been here for the first week of orientation. They met people, and then they're out on the road for ever. Rarely are they meeting the people that do the claims, the people that do the dispatching, or the fleet managers. Depending on what division you work in, you might not even talk to another person outside that division. So I think it's interesting for truck drivers to be able to hear how we operate, and just how we're there for them too. We're doing this podcast not for us in the office, we're doing it for the truck drivers, to get everyone on the same page, because communication is the most important thing for any company to have their strength in. And if you don't have a good communication, especially the truck drivers, well, they're not going to know what's happening within the organization, especially big changes. Last month we had Mike on. He was talking about our insurance changes. And the insurance thing that was scary for a lot of truck drivers. But I even heard feedback from truck drivers that once they listened to that episode with Mike talking about insurance, that kind of eased their worries a little bit. Yeah. And so if the podcast is about anything, it's about that right there.
Yeah. And that's where, thinking about the roundtable, like it's difficult to really dive into those kind of meaty topics, whereas this platform of doing a podcast really provides a good platform for that sort of deep dive engagement.
Yeah, and it's so varied too, by like who we have as a guest on the podcast, what they're going to be talking about. Because we had Tony from the shop over, a completely different conversation than when we had like Jeannie in here talking about claims.
Yeah.
And so I've always found it interesting. I'm always on the other side of this though. It's very also weird for me to be in front of the microphone on this because I'm always sitting on this other side of the table watching the conversation happening.
Yeah.
And then watching it about 1,000 times after that while I'm editing it.
So you know these episodes back.
Oh yeah, I know them like the back of my hand. And I don't know the range of different topics. Like even for myself, there's not a lot of people I talk to in this company, and so just hearing them and like hearing what they do, I'm always like fascinated. I'm always interested. I'm always fascinated, and I don't know. It gets me to know them a little bit more.
Yeah.
I feel like.
So I want to ask you from a marketing perspective, put your marketing hat on, and sort of you have some thoughts and purpose behind CB Talk. What has been your favorite episode, your standout episode of CB Talk that we've done?
Yes. So I have a printout in front of me.
Okay.
All the episodes. I was kind of reviewing them before this to see like what stood out to me.
Yeah.
The Mike ones always stand out because Mike is such a natural talker on camera. From probably his years of media training that he's had. Yeah. But no, I always like the Mike episodes. It's amazing because Mike could sit here and then you'll ask him a question and then he'll talk the rest of the 30 minutes. Yeah. So when I'm editing those, that's always really nice. But a couple of the ones that, besides Mike, that stood out to me, Randy Spurlock, I thought that was an amazing episode.
One of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Talking to Randy about his years in trucking. For
Randy
sure.
came to this episode and he had printouts. Do you remember what the printouts were for at all?
No.
Because he had it sprawled out in front of him, and it was like statistics in trucking about like retirement stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And he talked about his like experience in trucking, about his 30 years of experience in trucking, and then he also brought in data to like back up the stuff he was saying.
Classic Randy Spurlock right there.
And so that episode really stood out to me. I like that one a lot. I thought the Jake Wells and Scott Wagner, I thought that was a good one. That was the first time. No, that was the second time we had two guests on the podcast at the same time. Scott had his reservations about coming in and talking on the podcast, as most of our guests do that haven't been on it before. They get nervous. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And then when they actually get here, they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But I thought Jake and Scott, they had good conversations back and forth with each other too.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good. But favorite overall, I think, out of all the episodes we've done, at least in the last year, I really liked Jana Jarvis coming on board from OTA. That was the first time we've had someone from outside the company come in and just talk about trucking in general. Talking about trucking in Oregon, talking about different laws that were being passed. I was probably the most engaged with that one. Just because it was so different than like what we usually do and like who we usually talk to. And getting that insight I thought was really really cool.
Yeah, it was great to have Jana on, and I would like to do that with more stuff, having more people on the program. One of the things that I've heard from some drivers that would be interested is to have some of our OEMs, Freightliner or Volvo, come in to sort of talk about their products and what's new in the market for trucks, especially since we haven't bought new trucks in a while. And that should be something that we're doing this year. So that's, it'd be kind of fun to hear some of them and their perspectives. But yeah, I heard similar feedback about having Jana here. It was a different kind of a program. I think we definitely got a different audience with that episode than we did with some of our others. And that's a good thing to me.
Do you have a favorite?
I think mine is Randy.
Yeah, Randy was such a good one.
Randy was so much fun to talk to. It was a really engaging episode. I enjoy having Mike on, but from a host perspective, asking a question and then, it's great information. I'm not saying that. It's like, it's not as engaging from a host perspective. And Randy was a very fun episode to have on because there was such good conversation and he brought, like, when I was preparing for that episode, I had no idea what was going to be what it was going to be about. With a lot of the episodes, I feel like I have a better sense of what the guests are going to say than the guests do when they come on. With Randy, I think it was the other way around. Randy was prepared. He knew exactly what was going to be. He had his data. He had everything, and so that was a lot of fun to sort of kind of have the tables turned in that way.
Well, I think it's funny too because I have a printout right here that shows our episodes and shows how many views each one got, and I think. The people that listen to this podcast, they also felt the same way because you can see Randy's episode had more views than almost any of the other ones.
Yeah.
Because I think drivers also really liked listening to Randy because that is someone that had like a lot of experience, decades of experience, who worked for our company for decades. And then he was retiring. I think that added a huge aspect to that episode is that we got Randy in here the month he was retiring, like maybe the week before he retired. And so I think he himself had been sort of like reflecting on the past. And I think he brought that into the podcast as well, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Is there anything else you want to add as we sort of near the end of the interview?
No, I'm just thankful to be a guest. I appreciate it.
This side of the,
be on this side of the thing. Maybe one day I'll host.
Yeah.
No, I would not want to do that. But I mean, what I'll say to like our truck drivers out there is I appreciate every single one of you. I work out of the yard, and so I talk to truck drivers every single day. They come in, and it is always my favorite part of the job is seeing how different every single person is, and how easy it is to talk to every single truck driver that comes in as well. So I enjoy having those conversations. I enjoy seeing truck drivers every day, and I enjoy everything that, Combined Transport does. So, and thank you for having me on board.
Absolutely. Thanks for being our producer. Good luck editing all of this the video.
It's going to be a tough one.
It'll be a whole new adventure. But thanks for everything you've done for CB Talk, and thanks for being on the program today.
Thank you.
Tyler. Absolutely. Thank you, Tyler, for the interview. Our next episode will be out on February 27th. Like and subscribe. Wow, I got to say that now. I feel like a real YouTuber. Like and subscribe. Please send us your questions via Facebook or email them to us at cbtalk@combinedtransport.com. We appreciate your participation. It is your engagement that makes this podcast work. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a part of the Combined Transport team.